I was born in Mobile, Alabama, raised in Mobile, Alabama. It was the South. It was the 1960s. And so there's a connotation that's unmistakable there. The more dominant environment that I grew up in would be me in a household full of siblings, a mama and a daddy, and cousins and others who lived nearby. So it was a very large, extended family. And it was protecting me wouldn't be quite the right way to put it, because I was aware of all of the racial stuff that was happening, but certainly it was creating space where it was safe to be me.
My mom took us to church, and she always just taught us about God and taught us about the things of God. And she's a very sweet woman, and actually she's my hero. I know she was the one that prayed for us and just did the best she could for us. And so I know that has a lot to do with shaping where I am today.
So I remember I was playing basketball on the basketball team freshman year of high school, and one of my teammates, he came up to me, he was like, "You talk white." And I'm like, what does that mean? And then he was referring to like, why don't you ever say the N-word?
I mean, growing up, I hated police officers. And that's, like I said, grew up in the 90s, and that's when the whole NWA thing was swinging around, Tupac, Biggie, all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, you know, I always thought that cops hated black people. I mean, they had this image of what we were supposed to be, and that's how they did their jobs.
I grew up in a big household, so it wasn't like I got to sit there and say, let me think about what I want to watch today, and take the remote, which didn't exist at the time, not in my household anyway, and figure out what I want to watch. It was mostly watching what was on based on what others in the household were watching. But I recall watching Bonanza, The Cisco Kid, Big Valley, Get Smart. And then as time went on, because of the paucity of African Americans on TV, whenever there was a show related to a black person, there might be more attention paid to that show. I Spy was one of those shows. There was a comedian called Flip Wilson. If Sammy Davis Jr. was on any show, and he was on a lot of different shows, it wouldn't be surprising if that show was on in my household. Watched a lot of football, watched a lot of sports.
Oh, we used to watch The $6 Million Man, Wonder Woman, Gilligan's Island, The Dukes of Hazzard, Different Strokes, Facts of Life.
I remember when I used to watch Disney Channel, I used to watch That's So Raven and The Proud Family.
I don't mind taking a glance at Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder and shows like that.
Growing up, and the shows that you did watch, what were some ways that you saw your race and culture being represented or not represented?
I would see if it doesn't have to do with sports or things like that.
Targeted by law enforcement.
It's like they're always a criminal or something.
Overly aggressive.
Savages.
Might be good at sports, might be good at singing or dancing or something that is entertainment related. Might be.
As loud.
Sex crazed.
Thugs.
There's always be some sort of reason in the media why you would bring up it was a black male in this incident, or a black male was victimized in this incident. Like the word black had this sort of feeling outside of what the situation actually was. It makes you feel a certain way about what's going on before you even hear what the story actually is.
Black males, I think it's a label they have from a lot of things that, you know, they have done, and but I think it is a stigma that, you know, of course you can't put on everybody.
The way black people are portrayed are generally the way they were portrayed during slavery and things like that.
only can maybe excel as athletes.
Rappers.
Black men were missing. That's kind of the dominant thing. They were missing, and to the extent that they were there, they were still invisible.
So today, we maybe see, people of my culture or race getting more prominent roles. I think, those roles are still difficult to come by.
We're not worth what we really are.
I just wake up and breathe. In this country, it's unmistakable for me to forget who I am in racial terms. I think I'm more than just a black person and more than just a black man, but that is the dominant stamp of society.
From the music videos to, how athletes have treated women, it makes you think that it's okay.
And then the worst part is when, black males growing up, they see this on the media and then they buy into it and they think, oh, I need to act this way.
Because I didn't watch the news that much when I was younger. It was more so like watching a music video or something and seeing how Nelly would be, or how Rick Ross and people like that would be in a music video. And it's like, you wonder as a kid, should those be like my goals when I start growing up? Like those flashy cars and those like half-naked women and money flying all over the place, like around the house.
As a kid growing up, I didn't see, when I watched a TV show, it was just pure, just watching it, and it was good and it was fun, but none of those things ever really came up to make me question, why am I not represented in any of these TV shows, anything like that?
Because we grew up the minority and supposed to hate the police, but when we become police officers, the black culture kind of frowns upon you because they think we're traitors.
It makes it hard as a black man to see other black people or black men and not kind of feel that. Why wouldn't I feel safe? What makes me feel this way? And generally, it's because media has taught us or bred us to believe these things to be true before even checking the facts about it. So oftentimes I have to check myself, and I'm like, he's another black man. He could be just like me.
I think the media has influenced my disposition, not directly, but indirectly. Sometimes I'm self-conscious, just because you see these shootings on the news and stuff like that. So when I walk into a grocery store and I walk to 7-Eleven, I make sure I don't have my hands in my pocket, or I try to show my hands, or I try to when I walk down the street, I try to smile, just so I'm not portrayed as aggressive.
I drove an all-black Impala, and we used to get followed around all the time by police officers. And I didn't drink, so I was never drunk, but it still gets your adrenaline going because these guys are they're following me for no reason.
I do recall a car passing by a neighborhood where I lived in Florida. And I was walking from a corner store headed back home. And I do recall somebody yelling out of a car that was passing by the N-word. And I grew up in Mobile, Alabama. The opportunities to be called things there were just tremendous. And I may have been, but I just don't recall it until that particular moment. And the reaction wasn't shock or surprise, but a certain level of anger. Because it wasn't precipitated by anything said or done, but just from walking and breathing.
The name of the drawing is Straight Ahead Man of God. And it's a narrow path that's surrounded by all sorts of distractions and traps and snares that can distract him, how the media portrays us. It can be a tremendous distraction in terms of how we perceive ourselves if we get overly concerned with how the media is portraying us. It can actually shape our opinions of ourselves and shape our behavior if we give it too much power.
It's just interesting to see how everyone has a perspective of feeling discriminated against in various ways, and unless we all advocate for each other, how this won't change. I think a lot of the time we all have this outside looking in on other people's problems, when in reality we're all in the same box looking at each other about the problem.
I will just say the word hope. People are in a lot of different positions. I'm talking about 2015. It's a long way from Mobile, Alabama, 1950s, 60s, and 70s. But the barriers still exist. Many barriers still exist. There are people who have interpretations that it might be harder now. I don't necessarily share that view, but it's a view, and it's a legitimate view. And what I would hope is that if there's somebody who feels the weight of the world in 2015, and if that weight is as heavy as it is, in part because of racism, both historical and current, all I would want that young person to do, that young male, perhaps that young black male, what I would want that person to do is somehow find a lifeline to hope. You're going to have the ups and downs. There are going to be difficulties. There are going to be barriers. There are going to be self-created problems. There are going to be problems that society creates. Many will have to do with race, some may not. But I think what allows people to kind of keep moving forward in a way that's constructive is having a sense of hope that they can celebrate on good days, and having a sense of hope that they can cling to when there's nothing to celebrate. So, I'll leave it at that.